Okay. Let me get ready. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. I now convene the June 17-18, 2021 meeting of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Catherine Williams Brown. Jose Cardenas.
Present.
C. Michael Cooney.
Here.
Michael Direttore.
Present.
Marisol Direttore Escobedo.
Here.
Anna Marie Francois. Makita Guinot Shire.
Present.
Megan Gross. Johanna Harwick.
Present.
Susan Aradia. You are muted, Susan.
Thank you. I'm here.
Larry Jackson.
Here.
Bonnie Clapp.
Present.
Monica Martinez. David Simmons.
Here.
Gina Sloan.
Here.
Andrew Wall. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Mary, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, Madam Chair, you can see the flag over my shoulder. Please stand and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, I would like to announce that Jane Marks has stepped down from her position with the Commission. As some of you may know, Ms. Marks retired from the Sacramento Union School District. On behalf of the entire Commission, I want to thank Ms. Marks for her contribution and wish her much happiness in her retirement. And I hope she continues to share her experience and expertise with the Commission and the education community. And we are so happy for you, Jane, if by chance you are listening, because we do so appreciate your perspective that you brought to the Commission. Your deep commitment to children and young children was clear, and your expertise was truly valued in the time that you were here. So thank you for your service, and I wish you all the best. All right, we have a few general announcements this morning. I'd like to remind everyone about the meeting procedures before we get to today's agenda. Because many of us are working remotely, this meeting is being conducted via Zoom. Staff is maintaining a minimal presence in the Commission building, but everyone else is participating from their own locale. We'd like you to know that everyone's microphone is muted to eliminate any background noise that may hinder others from hearing what's being said. Commissioners and presenters can unmute yourself, but please mute your microphone after you're done speaking. Commissioners, some of you may be using the video audio functions and some of you will be using audio only. Commissioners that would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Because this is a teleconference meeting, we need to conduct each vote by roll call. Just before the vote, we will remind everyone to make sure you're unmuted so that we don't miss anyone's vote. Regarding Zoom identification, we'd like to ask the members of the public who want to make public comment to check their Zoom identification. Your Zoom identification is the name used when logging into the meeting. It's important that the Zoom identification is accurate so that we can call on you appropriately during public comment. We have new procedures for providing public comment. The committee chair will announce when the public comment period is open during the presentation of the agenda item and ask for anyone who wishes to comment to notify the meeting moderator. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. The Zoom ID name used by the member of the public to join the Zoom meeting will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the U.S. toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual it is their turn to speak by calling the last 4 digits of their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Please note only the last 4 digits of the caller's phone number will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Each of our committee chairs will have the discretion to set a time limit on comments depending on the volume of speakers seeking to speak on a particular item. We ask that you keep your remarks brief and focused on the particular item you're speaking to. You will get a 1-minute warning and will be asked to finish your sentence before being muted by the meeting host. Finally, also just as with an in-person meeting, this meeting is being recorded. After the meeting, the archived audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. And if you need to access any of that information I just said, it is right there in our agenda. So you can go back and get to that. All right. Okay. Item 2A is the approval of the April 2021 minutes. We'll need to make 3 separate motions to approve the ad hoc committee, executive committee, and regular session minutes. I'd like to remind everyone that only those who served on each committee can make and second the motion to approve committee minutes. Do I have a motion from a member of the ad hoc committee to approve the April 2021 ad hoc committee minutes? Moved by Commissioner Klatt. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Hartwig. All right. Discussion? Will the recording secretary call for the vote?
Bonnie Clark.
Aye.
Oh, no. Johanna Harwick.
Aye.
Andrew Wall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, do I have a motion from a member of the executive committee to approve the April 2021 executive committee minutes? Commissioner Cooney, thank you. Second, do I have a second? Commissioner Marisol de la Torre Escobedo, discussion? All right. Will the recording secretary call for the vote?
C. Michael Cooney.
Aye.
Marisol de la Torre Escobedo.
Aye.
Terry Jackson.
Aye.
Bonnie Clark.
Aye.
Monica Martinez. David Simmons. Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Finally, do I have a motion to approve the April 2021 regular session minutes? Motion, anyone? Moved by Commissioner Jackson. Do I have a second? Commissioner Cooney. Seconded by Commissioner Cooney. Discussion? All right. Will the recording secretary call for the vote?
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney.
Aye.
Michael de la Torre.
Aye.
Marisol de la Torre Escobedo.
Aye.
Megan Gross. Johanna Harwick.
Aye.
Susan Heredia.
Aye.
Terry Jackson.
Aye.
Bonnie Clark.
Aye.
Monica Martinez. David Simmons. Tina Sloan.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is 2B, approval of the June 2021 agenda. We have a revised item for I. Is that I or L?
Aye.
I, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the June 2021 agenda? So moved by Commissioner Hartwig. Do I have a second? Moved by Commissioner Klatt. Discussion? All right. Will the recording secretary call for the vote?
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo,
Aye.
Megan Gross, Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez, David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. Agenda item 2C is approval of the June 2021 consent calendar. Do commissioners have any items they would like to consider in closed session? Commissioner Hartwig.
I would like to consider number 20, Ms. Goldwyn, and number 23, Ms. Hardaway.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson.
I'd like to consider number 60, Repetto.
Okay. Any other commissioners? All right. Commissioner Marisol De La Torre Escobedo.
Yes, I need to recuse myself from number 72, Richard Eugene Utterback.
Okay.
Commissioner Sloan,
Yes.
I also need to recuse myself from item number 51 and number 98.
Okay. Looking to see if we have any others. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, I need to just recuse myself from number 60.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Do I have a motion to approve all remaining items on the consent calendar? Moved by Commissioner Klatt. Do I have a second? Are we becoming Zoom fatigued here in the second? And Commissioner Cooney, were you about to second?
I did second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Will the recording secretary call for the vote?
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo,
Aye.
Megan Gross, Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez, David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you. So the chair's report, I'm going to ask you to please bear with me a little bit today. My remarks might be a bit longer than on other occasions. It might even be more sermon-like than others. We'll see. You'll be the judge of that. So I'll start by saying that here we are at the end of the school year, and it's been unlike anything we've ever experienced in our lifetimes. We're also at the end of state budget negotiations. And regarding the end of the school year, we owe enormous gratitude to our educators. That's our teachers, our administrators, our counselors, nurses, paraprofessionals, coaches, teacher educators, and all who are involved with ensuring that our children are receiving the quality education and care that they deserve. This also includes commission staff. There's a hope that we can come stronger, emerge stronger after the pandemics we've experienced. We hope we're becoming better informed about what's important. There's a great public sentiment that acknowledges and has seen closer than ever that the quality of students, teachers, and how the supports that these teachers had and didn't have while transitioning to virtual teaching have been critical to keeping children learning and cared for during the pandemic. But the COVID pandemic took its toll on all of us, but a great toll especially on educators. According to CalSTRS, the retirement organization for teachers, we're looking at the second highest retirement rate in the history of CalSTRS, if not on par with what it was back in 2009, 2010 after the economic downturn. And if you all recall in our teacher supply report that we heard in April, we saw that in the 2019-2020 year, California institutions prepared about 9,000 fully prepared teachers for the classroom. And if we add out-of-state credentials to that, it increases to a total of 12,000 fully prepared teachers, new teachers going into teaching that year. At the same time, we also issued a combined approximately 13,000 intern waivers or emergency type credentials. All right, so you've got those two figures, 12,000, 13,000. Now the Department of Education, the CDE, typically projects hiring needs of around 20,000 teachers each year and in recent years. We are, if you look at the numbers, we're producing about half the numbers of fully prepared teachers that we need to meet this demand. And we're filling classrooms with teachers who aren't fully credentialed. We have a severe shortage on our hands of teachers especially. And our governor and legislators have proposed a budget that's critical to the mission of strengthening, diversifying, and increasing our teaching force. One of our agenda items provides information on the ways the state budget will support our efforts here at the Commission. But we here at the Commission can only do so much. And in my time here, I've seen the work transformed in ways that takes on more responsibility for taking charge in this profession, for supporting efforts to increase preparation of teachers, for advocating for access and support and preparation, all the things that fall within our mandate. But we've been pushing these limits in the Commission. We have really been taking a stand, and we owe much of that to our executive director, Sandy, and her staff for pushing these limits, for being so invested in the quality of teachers for our children. But we've also always known that we have limited mandates and limited capacity and limited reach in realizing what our state needs. And we talk here often, especially lately, of the ways in which transformative partners between P-12 and higher education can sustain more high quality pathways such as teacher residencies. But our legislators need to continue to do more if we're to realize these ambitions. Ambitions like countries like tiny Singapore understood 30 years ago. When I started my career in teacher education, it was with a move to Singapore. It ended up being a defining moment in my career and personal life for many reasons. At the time, Singapore wanted to transform their education system. They invested gobs of money in this, the likes of which we can't fathom in our impoverished system of teacher education. Yes, we have an impoverished system of teacher education. Singapore was also interested in bringing in alternative perspectives to bear on their work, hence why I was hired. I don't know whether I helped, but I certainly learned a lot, and we certainly worked together on a lot of important things, I believe. Anyway, when I started teaching at the National Institute of Education, which is essentially the only teacher preparation institution in Singapore, new teachers were offered a salary on par with beginning teachers during their preparation. They received this salary. This was in the 90s. And that salary, new teachers' salary, was on par with what new engineers earned. My husband at the time was an engineer from the US. This was a coveted and lucrative position to have. Singapore understood the need to invest in their teachers, and they did it with service scholarships. That was the salary that they were paid. That covered the entirety of their preparation to teach. And they've been doing it since I was there, almost 30 years they've been doing this. The service scholarships mean they receive the money to prepare to teach, and they commit to at least 5 years to teaching in the classroom. Why are we still so far behind in this thinking? Money matters. I recently read an op-ed in the New York Times. This came out in late May, and the title of it was "The Case for Paying All Teachers 6 Figures." It was written by a woman, her name is Colette Coleman, and she wrote, "Years ago, when I quit my Wall Street job to teach in the Los Angeles Unified School District, I thought, as the culture has taught us all, that a pay cut was just the cost of following a calling, a reduction taken to do meaningful work. I soon learned I was wrong. Working in Los Angeles, I saw how poor compensation affects teacher performance and thus kids' learning. When the bell rang at 3, my students busted out of the building, but the second part of my day was just beginning. I'd stay after school to help students grade papers, plan lessons, and call parents. Then I'd trek to tutor in beachside homes. This work was much easier than teaching in my crowded classroom, yet I got paid a lot more per hour. Working in an under-resourced school and preparing effective lessons for middle school math, science, and history classes each year with over 30 students of varying reading and English abilities was taxing enough. My perpetual state of exhaustion and money-related stress made it even worse. The financial concerns so many teachers face also serve as a tax on their attention. For me, when unanticipated bills appear, I'd spend a lot of my energy wondering how I'd pay them, which sometimes made it hard to stay present with my students." Ms. Coleman explains in this article that she left her job in California for a teacher position in Indonesia. And she says, "My new school wanted to attract top talent, so it paid accordingly. Given the fair salary and favorable exchange rate, I lived well. With this new financial freedom, my opinion of teaching improved. And my performance soared. I didn't mind staying late to plan intricate lessons or help students because there was no second job I had to run off to." Why am I talking about teacher pay, something that the Commission has no jurisdiction over? Because we can't do our part to increase the number of teachers and diversify the number of teachers in our state without others doing their part. The most important thing that we need to do, I believe, is keep our eye on what our children need, and that's our teachers and administrators and all certificated personnel who our students and families depend on to be the best prepared and to have the best supports to do what our children need. But we have to pay special attention to our prospective educators. We need to ensure that quality individuals have access to high quality options for learning to teach. And a lot of our agenda items today and in the past and in the future will be about access. Again, what Singapore did 30 years ago with prospective teachers is something similar to the service scholarships that we have under our Golden State Teacher Grant program. So back in the US and our aspiring teachers, if our teachers are not well supported, what do they have to look forward in their preparation journey? Here are some snippets from a fantastic playlist that was recently published on May 3rd by the Learning Policy Institute called "Building a Strong and Diverse Teaching Profession." If you have some time over the summer to understand this, I highly recommend it. Take a peek. One of the areas of the playlist talks about what it costs for aspiring teachers. More than 2/3, it says, more than 2/3 of future teachers take out student loans to fund their preparation. The high cost of college combined with teachers' expected low salaries has contributed to a steady decline in enrollment in teacher prep programs over the past 10 years and a shortage of qualified teachers. The cost of teacher preparation, the potential debt incurred are even more significant barriers standing between future teachers of color in the classroom. The burden of student debt is another factor depressing the available supply of future teachers and importantly, future teachers of color. Average student debt ranges from $20,000 to $50,000 for individuals entering the field of education. I can absolutely say with certainty that as a program director for 14 years, I saw student debt on par with this and even more, way more in California for people who are going into a field earning a teacher's salary. So here we are at the end of an unprecedented budget cycle, and it ain't over yet. What are our legislators investing in prospective teachers? In addition to the grant programs we'll discuss later in our agenda item, I want to focus on the service scholarships in the form of the Golden State Teachers Grant. If you're not familiar with it, the Golden State Grant provides $20,000 service scholarship for aspiring teachers to teach in high needs areas. And these currently include bilingual education, STEM, special ed, and multiple subject and TK, and other subjects that we, the commission, will designate annually as high need. And there's a service commitment of 5 years to teach after receiving this. We have learned that bits and pieces of funding isn't enough. So a $20,000 grant, the Golden State Teacher Grant program initially received $100 million one-time funding back in January. And with the May revise, we saw a $400 million one-time funding. So $500 million over 5 years, which would support a combined total of about 25,000 grants for new teachers. After going through the legislature, unfortunately, that commitment was lowered to $200 million for 5 years, and with no more than $100 million to be spent in a fiscal year. So at the moment, that means about 10,000 total aspiring teachers with this funding. This is helpful, but it's not yet meeting the gap I just talked about. The grant programs we're going to hear about will help, but we really do need to do more. I'm going to finish by saying when the May revise came out, I was so elated and hopeful at seeing that finally, in my 30 years in teacher education, our state was putting real funding into the importance of well-prepared teachers. The reduction from the May revise was deflating to me, and I'm hoping that we're going to see more commitment in the coming months. As your chair, I'll work with all to implement the gifts we've been granted and to do so with what we have. It's what our teachers do. But I do implore our legislators to do more. We have an opportunity to change the course of an impoverished system. Small loans here and there, piecemeal funding, these don't build robust opportunities to become a teacher. For teachers from low-income backgrounds to truly access high-quality preparation, they need the assurances from the get-go that if they qualify to begin learning to teach, they will be supported in that effort. All right, finally, I just want to say that I think everyone in this room knows educators, like parents, have something in common. When you are one, you pull something deep down inside to make it through, and you just can't give up. You can't give up on kids. But sometimes educators just, it's too much. And we have asked so much of our educators this year. And my request is that we show them that we understand the importance of their profession and we put our money where our mouth is. Thank you for bearing with me today, and let's continue our meeting and our work. All right, item 2 is the Executive Director's Report. Mary.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for your inspiring words and the call for all of us to attend far more seriously to the teacher recruitment and development opportunities that are before us. Very much appreciate your words this morning. And good morning, commissioners, and good morning, stakeholders who are out there with us in this way. I wish you were here in Sacramento on the eve of summer solstice here. The longest day of the year is coming up on Monday. And what a great time it is for baseball, Commissioner Cooney. It's going to be 111 degrees tomorrow projected here in Sacramento, and boy, would we have a good time if you were all here. But alas, that's not to be this week. Maybe soon, and we hope that is soon. Just a couple of quick announcements for all of you. There is the applications for the Educator Prep Student Liaison seat here at the Commission are open and due by June 30th of 2021. If you know any aspiring educators who have enrolled in preparation programs, please invite them to apply for this seat. It is wonderful to have that voice at our table, bringing the ground game into our room with us when we're meeting. And so we're hopeful that we find another great candidate to serve in that role. Secondly, I just wanted to, I'm sure this is already well known, but former Commissioner Cindy Martin has been confirmed as the United States Deputy Secretary of Education. So she is officially no longer on the commission, but she's moved to a place where we're grateful to see her and have her working on behalf of teachers and students and families in education across the country. So congratulations to Cindy Martin, and thank you so much for your time and service with us. Finally, I just wanted to thank and join Chair Sloan in thanking Janie Marks, teacher Janie Marks, for her time on the commission. One of the unfortunate parts of the last 15 months is that we haven't had the time together in person that is different. It's qualitatively different than this. This is great, but better is when we're here in person and we can get that added quality of time together. Janie Marks is a remarkable teacher, and she's just retired from a long career of teaching. She told me the number of years when we spoke this week, but I've forgotten that number. I know that she has got a class of students that she has worked with. She has been their teacher for the last 8 years, and they're graduating. They graduated this week, and she's been with them for 8 years. That's the way her particular public Waldorf school in Sacramento City Unified is structured. She began every teaching day, learning day with a song. And there was a great deal of innovation and creativity and hard work for that group of students whose lives have been absolutely changed by this remarkable educator. Next week, she told me she's planning to go on a camping trip with them as a celebration of their time together. And as she moves them on to the next part of their education, she will inevitably be a member of their families for the rest of their natural lives. I know the teachers that my children have spent time with. I can count them who have made a profound difference. Even if they only were my child's teacher for a year, they made a profound difference in my children's outlook on themselves and their future. Teachers have the ability to have that impact, and I'm just so proud to have spent this time with Janie Marks. I wish we could have had more time. Hope that maybe our paths will cross again in the future. But congratulations, Janie, and thank you for all of your service to this body and to the students that you've served over the many years that you've been in this profession. You're a model for all of us. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Executive Director Sandy. It was great to hear more about Janie's teaching life. And I'm sure she's going to have a lot of fun camping with a group of 8th graders. They're pretty funny that age, I noticed. All right. Item 2F, do any commissioners have items to report? Oh, Commissioner Brown.
Good morning and good summer day to everyone. I'm just so grateful for all of you here, and thank you, Chair Sloan, for your what you called your sermon, and it really sets up really well for the 3 things that I would like to report to you. You know, I'm the community college commissioner, but I've also found myself, as Commissioner Cooney would say, doing early childhood education about early childhood education, because that's my passion, and that's certainly an area that the community colleges really focus on. So I have 3 things to say, and I'll try to keep it brief. As my dad said, be careful that you don't make a short story long. But the 3 things are just to give you all an update about what's going on in early childhood education from the community college viewpoint, and it's really interesting and exciting. The first thing is, and we'll hear more about this in August, is what the commission is doing now. The pilot study on higher education programs to align with the commission's TPEs is in progress, and we'll get to hear about that. There's also a task force that's working on a proposal for people being prepared to be early childhood teachers in terms of the assessment, how to do that. And the field is really excited about that, as well as designing a proposal for an accreditation for teacher preparation programs. So I guess the piece of that I really want to say is, let's get ourselves ready and excited about the progress that we're going to make in bridging the early childhood education world into the credentialing that we do in California. And so we'll hear more about that in August, but I think that there's more to be said. The second thing I wanted to mention is, yes, there's a lot of conversation about the teacher shortage. So thanks for the setup, Chair Sloan. It's huge. And then it's even bigger as we consider what's gone on in early childhood education. But again, we're really thinking about what we can do. That there's 2 or 3 really interesting things that are being considered. One is what's bubbling up is what's needed is a bachelor's level program in education in the state of California. And if that degree we're able to, if we can do anything to support the development of that degree, that could include an early childhood track towards a P3 credential. And also that means that we're going to need to figure out how to change the Pell Grant rules so that students can really be eligible for Pell Grants in a major in education or teaching. In part about that teacher shortage, I wanted to tell you, and I hope some of you know about it, but there is an early care and education pathways to success initiative led by Randy Wolf that many of our colleges are working with around developing a teacher apprenticeship program that would help get and support, financially support teacher apprentices that they could get a paid position as they're doing their preparation work. It's really exciting. It's focusing a lot on workforce development. We've talked about that before, that we have both career education and workforce development and degrees in academics as well. This workforce development is significant. There's over $320 million that are going to be put into the workforce development budget, and education is highlighted as one of the high need areas. So I think we really need to think about what we can do to support those efforts, including learning more about the apprenticeship, because there's financial funding, private funding, and public funding to really look at how we could pilot that, including for people who already have their multiple subjects credentials, who will be teaching TK programs that are going to really start developing now. So that's the second part, is all this piece about how to address the teacher shortage. I think that we should, be aware of and support the initiatives that will really do that. And finally, I just wanted to give you a little heads up. The Early Childhood Education Mentor Program was scheduled to be, it got slashed and was scheduled to be dropped this month. And it's been in place for about 20, 25 years, which was really discouraging to the early childhood teacher preparation folks. It's the only program that helps support people in supervising and mentoring student teachers in early childhood. I am happy to report that in the 11th hour, there was a rescue. Now they're saying it's a misunderstanding, but we'll just move on from that. And the Department of Ed will be giving, well, all the quality contracts will be moving over to the Department of Health and Social Services. But the mentor program will be revived. And I'm really glad to tell you that, because it's the only thing that supports early childhood education teacher preparation during student teaching. So there you go. That's my 3. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Brown. Always helpful because you have so much information that we need to hear. And yes, great news on the mentor program, as Commissioner Sandy, or Executive Director Sandy, giving you multiple roles today. All right, are there, do other commissioners have items to report?
Commissioner Sloan, I just wanted to take the time to say thank you for your report and also for thanking all of our educators. I think it's vital that we continue to pay attention to the need of our educators. Some of our educators might be on break, but a lot of them are still working. A lot of them are still doing extended year and summer school and going above and beyond. And our teachers, our school counselors, our administrators, our superintendents, they've worked around the clock. And so when we talk about this exhaustion, we also have to think about our students, and our students still have high rates of anxiety and depression. And I hope that as we return and we look to come back, that we don't forget to really do some community rebuilding as we return, and as for not just for our students, but also for our staff and for our parents, because we have to rebuild that trust. And so I know it's easy to go back and try to go back to normal, but the reality is nothing is going to be normal after this. And we have to remember the needs of our teachers, our incoming teachers as well, and to prepare them to understand that when they come in, they have to also be socially, emotionally prepared to deal with our students' needs. So I just wanted to really reaffirm that, because anxiety, depression, if you look at various reports, it's outstanding as far as what's happening to our young people, right? And it's really how it's affected them. And there's been a mass hiring of school counselors throughout the state, which is very promising. But I'm also seeing that, we also need more of our school nurses and our social workers and our school psychologists. I know that our school psychologists are overburdened with their caseloads that they have. So it's great to see that we're moving in the right direction, but there is a lot of need still really to tackle the mental health needs of our students. But again, I just want to reiterate to say thank you to all of our educators who are still out there working, who are still doing enrichment activities. I know that a lot of people were fearful of going to summer school, but been able to go to some schools, and kids are excited. They're doing some fun activities, and that's what school should be. It should be a fun, safe place for all, regardless of extended year. This should be something exciting for them, for their lifelong when they come back to education. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here and for your continued service.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. That was such an important reminder of the care that we need to give to our educators and children, because things are not different. Things are very different, and things are different in the fall. And there's so much that we have to do for them. Thank you. Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I actually have, as Director Sandy was, talking about former Commissioner Marks and just the relationships with her 8th graders and whatnot. It got me thinking what it's going to be like when she sees her students, once they graduate from high school and, and beyond, just in terms of their future plans. But one of the many things that I've missed this past school year has been seeing alumni. Typically, there are a handful of them that stop by our campus to say hello. But last year, one of my former students contacted me to let me know that she was in the process of writing a book. So I have a book for all of you to add to your summer book reading list. And I want to make sure I'm showing it on Zoom here. So it's Able to Be Otherwise by Anna Leneker. There you go. And in terms of Anna and her story, Anna is my former AP US History student. And she wrote this book regarding her experiences and encounters with poverty, addiction, climate change, And in her story, she just includes so much data and evidence regarding the California wildfires, the opioid epidemic, and what she experienced living in a food insecure household. And through all of this, as a low-income first-generation student, Anna earned her bachelor's degree and master's degree from Brown University. So I encourage all of you to add this to your summer book reading list, to go out and buy this book. Anna's story is so impactful, just so powerful. And she shows us how things are truly able to be otherwise.
That is fantastic. Thank you. And I have no doubt that Ms. Leneker had a spectacular teacher for history who inspired her in her high school years. So, other commissioner reports. All right. Do liaisons have items to report? Commissioner Liaison Rodriguez.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I was ordering the book, so I was a little just started it. Good morning, and I hope everyone's doing well. My state board report will be on the shorter side as we had a lighter May agenda. The board approved the distance learning guidance, which I spoke about when we last met. It is well organized to support teachers at all grade levels and in all subjects, and a great resource when transitions to distant learning might be warranted in the future. It's 541 pages, but I would also like to recommend it to your reading list. It's a page turner. And you might go, no, it is. So I highly recommend it for educators because, you know, things have shifted. As Chair Sloan mentioned, you know, when we were at the beginning of the meeting. And so it connects decades of research on digital learning to inform specific topics that were outlined in SB 98. And the bill identifies the topics for the development of a draft distance learning curriculum and instructional guidance for math, English language arts, and ELD. It includes a framework for addressing critical standards and other topics related to distance learning. Let's see here. And since we last met, of course, the governor has released his comeback plan, and the May revision included significant increases in funds to help the state rebound from the pandemic, including approximately $3.3 billion for recruitment, support, and retention of our educator workforce, right, which is much needed, as has been mentioned already. If approved, the budget negotiations happening this week, significant increases in residencies, and the classified employee credentialing program will mean an increased role for CTC in helping LEAs and IHEs to realize a post-pandemic revival of the workforce. I'm particularly interested in the $250 million proposed to incentivize national board certification, and especially to teach for NBCTs to teach in high need schools. The May revision also proposes funds to help teachers earn their certifications in computer science and additional funds to the 21st Century School Leadership Academy, and proposes $500 million for Golden State Teacher Program, which was also mentioned. I know CTC staff have worked relentlessly on this budget and countless meetings with the Department of Finance and legislative staff, writing language, and suggesting edits to improve proposals. So thank you so much for all of your hard work always. And lastly, please join me in welcoming our new state board member. Governor Newsom appointed Rana Bananka, 16, to the student seat at the of the 11-member body, and she'll be starting August 1st. She'll have full voting rights and will serve for a year. Ms. Bananka is a student at Modesto High School, and she is replacing Zaid Fatah, who was an amazing student representative, and he has been accepted to a few universities, but will be going to Yale. So anyway, good luck to him, and eager to have Ms. Bananka on, and thank you, Zaid. And that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. Always informative. My summer reading is getting all organized here. Other liaison reports. Okay. I now recess the general session and move to the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. Commissioner Klatt, will you please convene the committee?
Yes, thank you. I now convene the June 2021 meeting of the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. The committee has one item before it today. The committee chair will announce when the public comment period is open during the presentation of the agenda item and ask for anyone who wishes to comment to notify the meeting moderator. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling into the meeting, or excuse me, by calling their Zoom ID. Please remember that the Zoom ID is the name used when logging into the meeting. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the US toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual it is their turn to speak by calling the last 4 digits of their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Item 2A is the update on the governor's proposed 2021-22 budget. It is an information item. Michelle Peralt and Vivian Sue will present the item. Ms. Peralt, will you begin?
Yes, good morning. Can you all hear me okay? All right, excellent. Well, I am logging in from Washington, D.C., and my partner Vivian will be helping me out there in Sacramento. So I actually will start by giving a report and update and appreciate Commissioner Rodriguez kind of actually opening the floor on this conversation and providing you some of the details related to the 21-22 state budget and specifically, obviously, its impact on the commission. So as it was mentioned both by Chair Sloan as well as Commissioner Rodriguez, the governor did release his 21-22 May revision budget proposal last month, which was then followed up very quickly by the legislature taking meetings in their subcommittees to look at all of those proposals provided by the governor. I will have to say that this year's May revision is something that I don't think any of us have ever seen in our history. It is certainly, we went from a place of fiscal uncertainty in January and caution as we were continuing to experience all things that the pandemic was bringing towards us, and found ourselves with over nearly $80 billion in unappropriated funds, when the governor presented his May revision. So with that, there were substantial investments, as mentioned already, made into teacher recruitment and retention by the governor. The governor specifically increased from the January budget from $25 million to $125 million into the California Classified School Employees Credentialing Program. And that is a program that the commission has overseen since the 15-16 budget year. He also increased from $100 million in his January budget to a proposed $550 million into the teacher residency program, as Tina had mentioned, or as Chair Sloan mentioned earlier in her report. Included in the May revision that were new proposals that we didn't see in January included the $15 million for that computer science supplementary authorization grant. This is for teachers who are already credentialed to have them go back and get their authorization specifically in computer science. There was $111 million proposed in what was called the PK to 12 Educational Employment Program. That proposal in the May revise had also included 19 staff to the commission. That would have been 15 permanent staff members and an additional 4 temporary staff members to get that program up and off the ground. The program was multifaceted, included it included a kind of a roadmap that would be overseen at the Sacramento Commission office to do some outreach and recruitment. It also included funding at the local level to establish up to 8 recruitment centers to help, again, try to bring in as many educators as possible as we were anticipating high retirements coming up into this next year. In addition, the governor's May revision included $20 million to be established or to be given to the commission to waive the credential fees for first-time applicants during the 21-22 fiscal year. So that would be anybody who needed to pay for a credential fee through us. It would be waived if it was their first one. As well as a $2 million one-time allotment that would go to teacher preparation programs to help them align the teacher performance expectations related to dyslexia. So if you remember when the commission updated those TPEs, it included a specific emphasis with and around dyslexia, and the governor felt strongly that there be some support to programs to help them move their programs in alignment. So now that I've given you all of these amazingly wonderful multi-million-dollar numbers, let me tell you where we are today. So after that happened, as I mentioned, the legislature met very quickly in subcommittees, and they went ahead and modified several of those proposals, reducing many of them in order to make way for some of their other educational priorities that the legislature believed that needed to be addressed in and around specifically the TK-12 area. So the legislature took the governor's proposal, and the specific changes they did was they reduced the teacher residency proposal from that $550 million down to $250 million over a five-year period. They did eliminate all the general fund dollars and the positions that were proposed as part of the roadmap program. They did leave, however, some funds that were Prop 98 dollars for the proposed regional centers in the budget. They reduced that from what was a $65.5 million proposal in the governor's to $40 million, but still allowing for some funds to be put forward to establish those regional recruitment centers. The rest of the items, however, in the May revision do remain the same. So the $20 million proposed to waive the credential fees, the $15 million for the computer science, the $2 million for the funds for the dyslexia TPEs all remain in place. So currently, and I apologize, I have some background notes. Currently, as of today, it's the 17th. The legislature had until June 15th to pass a balanced budget. They did in fact pass a balanced budget. It's what we kind of call a skeleton budget. In other words, they passed what they needed to make sure the funds were put forward. But we anticipate that we're going to get additional funding details in the next couple of weeks as they negotiate the languages that will be in the budget, as well as some of the specifics about how the funding will be put out. So if there are no changes, and as we continue to work with the legislature, we will still at the commission continue to see some significant increases to our budget in the form of one-time revenue. And most of them, as I mentioned, will be encompassed in 5-year grant programs that we will administer, as well as that $20 million for the waiving of the credential fee. The commission is continuing to work with the legislature, because we know, given the construct of this year, there will be possibly some additional opportunities to work with them to give us some resources. We are continuing to have those conversations to try to increase some of our staffing resources in order to support what will be about $390 million in grant funding, as well as we know there is work happening around the early childhood education and work that is needing to be underway around literacy and specifically the RECA. So in addition, I just want to mention, I think, and this will be mentioned more in depth tomorrow during the legislative report, But in addition to funding, the governor has proposed to create some non-fiscal budget language changes for us that will help us around both the CBEST and the CSET exam to provide some continued flexibility for candidates who are unable to complete those exams as we continue to work through the impacts of COVID. But as I mentioned, my colleague Sasha Horwitz will go into more in depth tomorrow on that related to his legislative report. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague Vivian Su, who's going to go ahead and give you an overview of the Commission's actual internal budget. Vivian?
Good morning, Commissioners. So our internal budget compared to the January proposed budget has remained largely the same. Our overall funding is about 31.5 million, or 31.6 million, sorry, which includes 3.4 million set aside for attorney general work. In addition, it does include $2 million in one-time funding out of our TDAA account, which provides updates to the reading exam. I also did want to mention it continues to propose the elimination of accreditation fees for next fiscal year. This is similar to what was proposed last year. Another thing that I did want to mention is in the last budget act, 14 million was transferred out of our teacher credentials fund to the general fund due to the economic uncertainties around COVID-19. This is set to be paid back over 3 years with interest beginning fiscal year 22-23. With that, that's my short report, and I'll turn it back to Michelle.
Thank you, Vivian. Appreciate it. So just one other thing I want to mention, it's not necessarily an impact to the commission itself as it relates to grants, but I want to mention that the budget and subsequent bargaining contracts with the state's union is proposing to eliminate the furloughs and the coupled salary reductions that had began for state workers back in July of 2020. So beginning on July 2021, those furloughs will no longer be in place. So as I mentioned earlier, the budget has been passed. We look at it as somewhat of a skeleton budget because we believe the state is, anticipating, well, we anticipate the state will have, if not one, but maybe two mid-year adjustments that they'll need to put into place as they can better determine some of the finer details, both for the budget language and really, quite frankly, some of the proposed expenditures. So just as a reminder for budget process, the governor now does have until June 30th to sign the budget, and we don't anticipate any issues with that taking place. So with that, we are happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Pearl and Ms. Sue, for that report. That was very clear. There's so much information in there, and thank you for presenting it so clearly and with just the right amount of detail. I appreciate that. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, Jessica Sacco. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jessica Sacco on behalf of Children Now. I would like to start off by thanking Chair Sloan and the other commissioners who spoke so eloquently this morning around the future that faces us in California with the very dire circumstance of a teacher shortage, even worse than we have been seeing over the last decade. Not only in K-12, but now with TK and early childhood, which has been decimated by the pandemic. With that in mind, I'm appreciative for Michelle's update and to indicate that the Commission may be receiving the additional support that it needs in order to adequately administer these grants, which are, doubling, tripling in size. Before you later today, you have a report on an evaluation on the classified school employee program with some really solid recommendations on how to improve in that program. But doing that requires the Commission to be able to have the staff to provide the technical support to administer these grants. So if at any time Children Now can be helpful in encouraging the legislature or the administration to support an increase in staff for the budget ask, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Jacob Guthrie, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning. My name is Jacob Guthrie, and I represent the Los Angeles Unified School District as Assistant Director in Certificated Workforce Management. I am pleased to be able to comment today on this agenda item. The proposed state budget contains several items that are of particular interest to us, including investments in the Classified School Employees Credentialing Program, the Teacher Residency Grant Program, and a credential fee waiver for K-12 educators entering the workforce. It is well known that California has experienced a shortage of teachers in high poverty schools and in key subject areas for over a decade. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the challenge even more. These state investments come at a critical juncture to support and augment local educational agencies' own efforts to address the teacher recruitment, training, and retention pipeline issues. LA Unified is a recipient of a prior grant from the Classified School Employees Credentialing Program, and this funding has enabled us to expand our Career Ladder program by an additional 45 members, 14 of whom have already joined our workforce as a register carrying teacher. This funding has enabled us to provide financial support and individualized mentoring to a wider group of teacher candidates and has helped serve as proof of concept as we seek to further expand our paraprofessional pipeline programs. We recognize that some of our greatest assets lie within our own organization, and this funding has assisted us in ensuring that we are able to provide a bridge for our classified employees to enter our certificated workforce. LA Unified has also been a recipient of previous teacher residency grants with 4 of our partner institutions of higher education. We have already prepared over 100 new teachers through these pathways, and these grant programs have served as a means for our district to enhance our already strong collaboration with these partners and have compelled us to think differently about how we invest in preparing our teachers. These programs have also helped us to support teacher candidates who may otherwise have entered the profession through alternative certification programs. In order to further diversify our teacher workforce and meet the needs of our students in 21st century classrooms, it is important to address the many requirements that can serve as barriers to entry into the teaching profession. The Commission has, quite commendably, spent a considerable amount of time and effort discussing ways in which these requirements can be barriers and in further strategizing ways in which the Commission and its stakeholders can break down these barriers to create equitable opportunities for prospective educators. The addition of a credential fee waiver for new teachers in this budget does exactly that, and we are hopeful that it is one of many steps to be taken by the legislature, the Commission, and others within California to address these barriers that may keep excellent prospective educators from even considering the profession. We want to extend our thanks to the Newsom administration, the legislature, the commissioners, commission staff, and all who work every day to increase opportunities and advance an agenda of equity and inclusivity in California's educational institutions. Thank you very much for your time.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Sacco and Mr. Guthrie, for taking the time to share that information and your insights with us. The public comment period for this item is now closed. And just double check that we don't have any last minute requests for public comment.
We do actually have one additional request. Bertha Magana, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, members of the Commission. My name is Berta Magana. I had the opportunity to be part of the California Classified School Employee Teacher Credential Program, and this program provides me financial support, individualized support, and counseling support. First, the classified program provided me with financial assistance, so I was able to pay for tuition, fees, books, and tests. Thanks to the economic support that I received, I was able to finish the teaching credential program. And second, the classified program provide me with individualized support. I really appreciate the support I received when I was in the program. For example, I was able to receive a test preparation program to pass examinations. And one of the main reasons I was not able to start the teaching credential program was the lack of assistance in preparation for prerequisites to start a teaching credential program. Finally, the classified program counseling support did a great job keeping me informed about the coursework that I needed to be successful in the teaching credential program. The timely academic guidance made a great difference in my educational goal. Thanks to the access to online coursework, flexibility of hours of employment, I didn't give up because I have the support I needed to be successful. Thanks to the support of the classified program, I had the opportunity to go back to school and get my teaching credential. And this year I was able to move from a classified position to a teaching position. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Magana, for sharing that. It's good to hear how the program impacts actual people out there doing the work. So thank you very much for taking the time. Any other last minute public comment?
Yes. Veronica Garcia, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hello, my name is Veronica Garcia, and I'm happy to say I'm a credentialed teacher. I just finished my induction program after my 2 years. I was part of the classified grant. I didn't go back to college till 10 years after I graduated from high school due to financial struggles. So I wanted to be a teacher, but I wasn't able to get my credential again after I graduated. So once I had marriage and kids, I was able to get back into the classroom and knew that's where I needed to be. Unfortunately, as an instructional assistant, that's how I started. I couldn't be in that role for very long due to financial issues again. So I was hired in the IT department at the district where I was working as a classified employee. I looked into going full-time into a credential program, and it would have cost $20,000 2 years, and there was no way that would have been possible. I see it in my role as a classified employee, and when I heard of the grant, it was like God sent to me. I couldn't believe I was going to have that opportunity to, accomplish my dream to be a teacher. I was able to do it through the grant, through the support of our financial support, and as Berta Magana said, they provided us also with professional support as far as walking us through the process of, sometimes it's a difficult process to go through credentialing and applying to those schools and passing those tests, and just guiding us through that whole process was valuable aside from the funding. So I can't thank that grant enough. And I really hope you continue to fund it. I'm a bilingual teacher. I teach in Spanish. I was an English learner. I was born in this country, but didn't learn English till I was 4. And so just having that opportunity to be able to give back to the community where I grew up in Chula Vista, which is close to the border, 5 minutes away, was amazing. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to express myself, and to just commend the Commission for funding and the state for funding this effort.
Commissioner Klatt? Mary Sandy, can I just jump in quickly here? Oh, excuse me. Yeah, can you hear me? You're muted, so I can't hear you, but I just wanted to recognize, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to recognize and thank these speakers who are sharing their experiences with the classified grant program. And since this is a budget update, and our next item on the agenda will be an update on the classified grant program, I just wanted to invite speakers who'd like to continue in this vein to perhaps wait till the classified item, which comes next in the next committee. So just a suggestion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Executive Director Sandy, for that reminder. And this is such an important program. We can see by the public comment, and we have a whole item dedicated right to it that's coming up. So if there are no other, or I should ask, are there any other last minute public speakers who would like to speak more to the item 3A, the budget item? Recording Secretary, any other last minute speakers?
No additional speakers at this time.
All right, thank you so much. And I share the enthusiasm for the item that's coming up. So again, thank you for the speakers who joined us to share. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? I see Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. And it's just a question about the budget. And it may be answered now or later. Ms. Sue, when you were talking about the overview of the commission's part of the internal budget, I thought I heard you say something about elimination of accreditation fees. And if it doesn't take too long, I just wondered if you could explain that a little bit, what that means. Thanks.
Hi. So the elimination of the accreditation fees is similar to what was proposed in the last budget act. It's Michelle, do you want to kind of go more in detail about it?
Sure, no, not a problem. So, the last fiscal year, the last budget, the governor proposed, it's not really an elimination of the accreditation fees. So we probably should maybe articulate it a little bit different. It's a waiver of them for 1 year. So in the last fiscal year, the governor's budget included waiving the fees for the accreditation fees for the year. They are proposing to do that again this year. It is a one-time waive of fees. The way it works is for us, our actual internal budget will then cover the cost of what those fees would have been coming in that comes out of our reserve. And it's really, it's a nod by the governor's office and administration to just try to help incentivize our credential programs to continue doing the good work they're doing, and hopefully, allow them to continue to bring in the needed educators we need to be enrolled in those programs. So does that help?
Yes, it does help to consider it a waiver. I remember that from last year. I didn't realize in order to have that waiver be implemented, the CTC reserve had to fund it. So thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Gross.
Thank you. I really appreciate this kind of in-depth overview of the budget. I had a question about the pre-K-12 Roadmap for Educational Employment program. Is that these regional centers going to be run strictly by CTC? Is that a CTC-CDE collaboration? I'd love some clarity on that.
Sure, let me give you a little bit of clarity. So the regional centers are being funded by what we call Prop 98 funds, right? So we have general fund dollars in the state that can be utilized for a variety of ways and that can come directly to the commission. Then we have what we call Prop 98 funds. Those are funds that are really reserved for TK through 14. So community colleges are applicable to receive that funding. So while the funds come into the budget, the commission's budget, that is, we will then be actually moving those funds out and into regional centers that will have to be overseen by a county office of education, somebody who is an applicable entity that can receive Prop 98 funds. Now, obviously, there will be some collaboration with the commission and these centers once they've been established to make sure that they have the tools they need, but the funding won't remain with the commission because it's not funding that we are eligible to receive and utilize directly from the commission. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Do any other commissioners have any questions or comments? Right, I'm not seeing any, but sometimes on Zoom it's hard to see. Oh, I do. Yes, Chair Sloan.
Thank you. Also, thank you, Ms. Perot. You always give us such a very clear understanding of what's a very complicated budget issue. So that's very helpful. And I just want to emphasize a couple of things in this budget that I think are critical for us to keep emphasizing for our legislators moving forward in terms of funding. So if we think about this 13,000 gap in terms of fully prepared teachers entering classrooms and teachers who are either have no preparation or supports in the terms of waivers or who are learning on the job in intern programs, then the need for programs to ensure that, our grant programs that are going to ensure that we're supporting aspiring teachers is really critical. So our residency programs, for instance, if you have an opportunity as an inspired teacher to be in a program for, let's say, a year, let's say you do a post-bac year, where you are working side by side with a mentor teacher, you're having supervisors both from higher education and the K-12 school helping you learn how to teach, and you're doing it in collaboration with a cohort of other new teachers and experienced teachers at the school, so that at the end of that year, when you have your own classroom, you are ready to teach. As opposed to if you only have the financial means to go into learn on the job kind of a program, an intern program, which is much harder. You are in charge of all of your children, your students, while you are being supported to learn in that environment. And California has much stricter standards for supports than a lot of other places. We're doing our best. And I think intern programs do have a place in our preparation system, particularly for people who already have some experience in teaching and are either moving into the public school sector or changing credentials or those kinds of things. But somebody just out of university or out of college who has not had experience in a classroom. If this was my child wanting to become a teacher, I would want my child to be in a fully supported program where they can learn how to do it well. If I had a child still in P12 education, I would want my teacher for my child to have been through a well-supported program so that when they are my child's teacher, they are ready to teach. And if teachers, aspiring teachers of color, do not have the financial means available to them to choose a pathway that is best for them, and that is overabundantly educators of color, then this is not okay. It is not okay that our aspiring teachers of color in California, in one of the wealthiest places in the world, cannot allow them to choose how they want to be prepared and prepare them well for our kids. So thankfully, our residency programs offer those kinds of grants. The Golden State Teachers Awards offer that. The classified, you'll hear more about that. We heard about that. But these programs need to grow and they need to be sustained. So that is just my plea to keep doing this. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair Sloan. That's a lot. I was thinking about your earlier remarks, and we have a lot to do, a lot of progress and a lot still to do. Commissioner Brown.
Here's a quick one. I can't do any more than second what Chair Sloan said, and to offer that one of the pathways for underserved communities is in the community college to help them get their preparation in an affordable way. So I'm in the boat with you on that one. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have comments or questions? All right. Oh, thought I saw a hand there. Nope. All right. Seeing none, this is an information item and no action is needed. Thank you, Ms. Pearl and Ms. Sue. And this concludes the business before the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. The committee is now adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Klatt. So I think we're going to take a short break. I think we have realized in the time of Zoom that breaks are extremely important. So what I want to know is 10 or 15 minutes. If you think 15, put up a 5. If you think 10, put up a 0. Okay, I think the 15s have it. 15 minutes, it is now 10:26. We'll call that 10:25. That means we will come back at 10:40. Yes, did I do my math correct? Okay, 10:40, see you then. Commissioner Martinez, will you please convene the committee?
Great. Thank you, Chair Sloan. Good to see everybody, and I'm sorry I was late today. Conversation this morning's already been super rich and really just harkened back one of the reports that LPI wrote on the California teachers and COVID-19, how the pandemic has been impacting the teacher workforce. So really appreciate the depth of the conversation. And Mary Sandy, Executive Sandy, for reminding folks we're going to do 4A and that we can actually do 4A now and have some rich commenters on that too. So thank you, everyone. So I'd like to call the June 2021 meeting of the Educator Preparation Committee to order. We have 10 agenda items. So yes, you will be bored or tired of me by the end of tomorrow. 5 of the items are scheduled for today and 5 more for tomorrow morning. So we're in for the long haul. Thanks for the 15-minute break. The committee chair will announce, so you guys have kind of noticed it's a little bit different. The committee chair will announce when the public comment periods open during the presentation of each agenda item and ask anyone who wishes to comment to notify the meeting moderator. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they'd like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will then notify the individual when it's their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. Please remember the Zoom ID is the name used when logging into the meeting. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share the comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the phone, the US toll-free number, will just need to press *9 on the phone to inform the meeting moderator they'd like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual it's their turn to speak by calling the last 4 digits of their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comments. All of this is on our website because we know that's a lot. These are very rich topics that we're going to talk about. So we'd like to limit public comment to 2 minutes. So I just want to give that heads up as we go through everything. So with all that in mind, the first item today is 4A, evaluation of the California Classified School Employee Teacher Credentialing Program. And that's why you can see that Executive Director Sandy called this out a little while ago. This item is being presented by Iore Osamwani, Amy Shooter, Lois Abel, and William Rowland. This is an information action item for commissioners to approve the evaluation report of the California Classified School Employee Teacher Credentialing Program for transmittal to the legislature. Ms. Osamwani, will you please begin?
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Good morning, Commissioners. A happy almost Friday. It is with great pleasure that we present the results of the California Classified School Employee Teacher Credentialing Program evaluation as required by statute. The item 4A is an action item. Once approved, the report will be transmitted to the legislature by July 1st. As you may recall, the legislature approved a combined total of $45 million for 2 separate rounds of funding for the classified program in 2016 and 2017. The classified program is designed to support classified school employees in completing their undergraduate education and teacher preparation to become credentialed California teachers. The funded grantee LEAs are shown in Appendix A. Round 1 of the program sunsets this month, June 2021, and Round 2 grantee LEAs are in their 4th year, soon to be finished in June 2022. The authorizing legislation requires the Commission to contract with an independent evaluator to conduct an evaluation to determine the success of the California classified program. And the evaluation must be conducted by a local education agency. Shasta College was funded to develop and conduct the evaluation. As the lead evaluator, Shasta College collaborated with Sinclair Research Group. The executive summary of the evaluation report is provided in Appendix B. A link to the full report can also be found on page 2 of the agenda item. The full report provides detailed analysis of the learnings gleaned from the evaluation and provides recommendations for improvement. At this time, I will turn it over to Amy, the lead qualitative researcher from Shasta College, to introduce the evaluation team and discuss the findings of the evaluation report.
Thank you, Iori. So I'm pleased to be here this morning, and we were very excited to be awarded the contract to do the statewide evaluation of the program. My name is Amy Stetter, and I am the director of the Office of Grant Development for Shasta College. We are part of the California Community College system located in far northern California. Personally, I have been in education for over 20 years. Prior to my time at Shasta College and in the community college arena, I was an administrator for student services at a county office of education. So in the P-12 world as well. So I have a broad scope of experience in public education in California. And so we were partnering with Sinclair Research Group to do this statewide evaluation. And I will just allow a few moments for Bill and Lois to introduce themselves before we get going into the presentation itself.
Good morning. My name is Lois Abel. I just must say that it was so nice to have Ms. Magoni and Ms. Garcia preface this presentation with their encouraging remarks. This kind of positive and grateful spirit is what we experience from participants throughout California. So it has been a delight to work on this. I'm with Sinclair Research Group, a nonprofit research agency working to improve educational programs. I've been in education for over 40 years and worked in many of the same roles that you commissioners have worked. But for the last 24 years, I have functioned as an evaluator for many different foundations and state programs. For this evaluation, though, I was responsible for the qualitative data collection analysis. Thanks so much for giving us your time today.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Bill Rowland. I'm the principal investigator for the study. I am newer to education than either Lois or Amy. I only have about 10 years under my belt in education. I started my career as a neuroscientist, and after lecturing in my medical school, I found that my love for education was much more interesting than working with lab rats. So I have been working for Sinclair Research Group as their CEO for the last 5 years, and I'm really excited to be here to share with you some of our findings today.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. We're gonna, Bill, can you share your screen?
Surely.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone can see that. So let us just take the next 15 minutes or so to share with you the results of the program and the recommendations that we have found from our evaluation and from our leadership team. So can we move on to slide 2? Thank you. So essentially the goals of the evaluation were to determine the success of the classified program, both based on the legislative goals and on the outcome of increasing the number of credentialed California teachers. So the legislative goals, just to recap, was to empower LEAs to recruit classified school employees into teaching careers, predominantly teachers of color and those in high need areas such as special education, STEM, and other programs. Undergraduate education of classified school employees, professional teacher preparation of those employees, And then in looking at the success, how many classified school employees became certified as credentialed California teachers. And so these were the goals of the legislation, the goals of our evaluation, and I will turn it over to Bill and Lois to share some of the next findings.
Okay, one of the things we wanted to take about 30 seconds to do was to share our approach to this research. We used a mixed method research design, which involved collecting both qualitative and quantitative data. And while we did a literature review and we had a structure in place, we approached this study without any preconceived notions regarding the results. In the beginning, we tried to remain very inductive, allowing the coding structure to emerge from the data. But as we moved forward, we were able to become more deductive as each step informed the next. And you can see in the flow chart that we have to the right of your screen that that's kind of what we're trying to do. Then the conclusions for each portion of the study were developed separately. And then we triangulated them with our leadership team to ensure greater reliability of results. Our leadership team was made up of site administrator, university educator, teacher, a couple of retired induction consultants and directors, and a retired DOE consultant. So these great minds helped to guide the development of all the tools and questions within these research. Over 100 people participated in focus groups and interviews, which is a lot, believe me. Most studies have about 24 participants in qualitative research. And this resulted in over 800 hours of recordings via Zoom. The coding team went through all this material and constantly compared and updated the code structure in order to come to agreements. We wanted to make sure that we could trust the science, or in this case, trust the research.
The quantitative data for this evaluation was gleaned primarily from online surveys of our 3 stakeholder groups. These surveys were first piloted with a small group of individuals before making that big push to collect the majority of the data. The quantitative data really came from categorical questions where individuals could choose a number of answer choices, or perceptual rating questions where they could agree or disagree on whether they were feeling one way or another. So we think our findings in this research are pretty valid and reliable. It's, when conducting any research or evaluation, reliability and validity are of extreme importance. You need to know that your tools are measuring what you're intending to measure, and you need to know that your measurements are consistent across time. So there are many reasons why we feel our evaluation tools are valid. Some of these have already been touched by Lois, as in piloting questions or triangulating results. We asked multiple samples, multiple populations, similar questions. We were also successful at surveying 90% of program managers across the state, which we're pretty comfortable with those results gleaned there. In surveys of participants, we utilized stratified random sampling from the nearly 2,000 people that we were able to get the contact information from. That stratified random sampling was able to get us a proportional and unbiased sample, of which we got 577 responses, which when we did a power calculation, that yielded a 95% confidence interval plus or minus 3.5. So ultimately, we're very confident in the reliability and validity of our findings. As to our findings, we've got we're really pleased to share with you some good news. In alignment with one of the legislative goals, this program is making good progress in creating teachers for California classrooms. Half of participants that responded to our surveys are already teachers of record in the classroom in some form or another. Also, with an eye towards the need for diversifying the teacher workforce, 2/3 of participants are people of color. 2/3 of program participants that responded to surveys are aware of the current shortages in their region, shown here on this chart. Those being education specialists being the most. And we were really pleased to find that the interest of these participants in teaching really aligned well with where those shortages were in their region. So you can see these two charts mirrored together were quite in alignment. So we're glad to see that the areas of teacher shortage also mirrored their interest. Most of the participants who are still pursuing their credentials intend to continue their pursuit to become credentialed teachers. Most participants would recommend this program to others that wish to pursue a teaching career. And they also want to work in their own districts. They're not really intending to move around and become movers and leavers. Another chart that really illustrates the importance of this program, I feel, is participants were asked if they agreed or disagreed that they'd like to continue in this program. And when they were asked that, most agreed. Only about 1 in 20 had some form of disagreement about continuing in this program. However, we asked then if they would like to continue given not having any support from this program. If this support were removed, how likely were they were to continue? And that really drastically changed the results. In fact, that rate of 1 in 20 increased by 500%. So to 1 in every 4 participants. 1 in every 20 participants might have some disagreement about continuing, but when you remove the support of this program, 1 in every 4 participants were questioning whether they'd like to continue. So clearly, the support from this program is making a significant difference on participants' willingness to continue in their pursuit of a teaching career.
I think it's no surprise to any of us that those who experienced the personal touch had the most success. This is again good news. We all know that mentoring works. This has been on the Commission's radar since the 1990s with VITSA when it began. And most recently were some of the results in the teacher residency program report you heard. We found in our evaluation that regular personal contacts with and among participants is crucial to success. Mentoring, moving through the learning in a cohort group, frequent personal check-ins from program leadership, that's what's made the difference. Testing was a major challenge for participants, and programs that offered support for test preparation tended to be more successful. So we really support also the CTC's endeavors to remove the barriers to testing, which they are currently working on. These are just a few of the best practices, many more listed in the report, but these were associated with the most successful programs. We do recommend that the LEA applicants be required to detail a plan for implementing some of these best practices in their programs. And also, one thing that was very much appreciated was the stakeholder forums that enabled sharing, and this would probably be something else that we would recommend that is implemented. We did find a vast difference in the implementation of the classified program at the local level. Some programs had many support structures in place, while others simply reimbursed for tuition. And one of the problems that we faced was getting rosters of current and former participants. Many program managers reported that just keeping track of the participants was one of their biggest challenges. And several new managers talk about it being hard to identify who was actually in the program. Okay.
All right. So it was very clear that the financial supports offered by this program made a really significant difference. However, some of the programs and participants were confused about what is allowed to be reimbursed, what was considered reimbursable. Additionally, funding policies seem to differ greatly from LEA to LEA. Early on in focus groups, there were differing definitions of what costs qualified for reimbursements, such as tuition, books, childcare, transportation. And when word got around in those focus book groups, some participants were surprised to hear that other programs provided anything more than reimbursement for tuition. So it'd be beneficial to clarify the scope of allowable expenses at both the LEA, for both the LEAs and participants. Funding of program administration also then came in a variety of sources. Some LEAs received in-kind sources of funding, and some used classified grants to cover administrative costs. Those programs that kept classified funds for administration reported keeping anywhere from $200 to $2,000 per participant. Lastly, some program participants were under the impression that they couldn't apply for other grants while in this program. And knowing that we have so many other initiatives, grants currently available, clarifying that this is an option, as well as advertising the number of options available for participants would be beneficial. This isn't part of the legislative goals, but it was a common finding that the classified staff felt it was difficult to take time off from their jobs for completing field work and student teaching. It was often the most significant barrier participants that shared. Some classified staff are working more than 2 additional jobs while in this program, and voiced that taking any kind of pay cut is almost an impossible decision. So an exploration of avenues where funding could be provided to overcome this barrier would ease concerns for many participants.
There was also a lot of variation in program management. A lot of the LEAs had some high turnover. And again, this could be reflective of the variances in the amount of money kept for program administration, people being actually paid and funded by this versus added on other duties as assigned. So in terms of recommendations, stability and continuity, encouraging stable leadership and management roles, both for the LEA and the institutions of higher education. Some additional maybe technical assistance in terms of a program management guide that would include reporting requirements, participant tracking, rules, procedures, allowable expenses, so that if there is turnover, that there is that continuity of the message and the requirements of the grants to the LEAs. We did find that during the focus groups with the program managers, they were very appreciative of the opportunity to network with each other. They had not had that opportunity prior to the focus groups. And so one of the recommendations would be to provide maybe a forum, or whether it's via Zoom or in person type conferences or opportunities for the LEAs, just program managers, to speak with each other, to share best practices, strategies, lessons learned, to enhance their professional development and the success of program implementation across the sites. And so that would be a recommendation from our findings. And then secondly, the collaboration with the institutions of higher education was generally not very strong, and sometimes not really implemented. And when we think of collaboration, we think of co-labor, if you break the word down. And so because every program is run so differently, some sites had pre-existing and long-standing successful histories with their institutions of higher education, and others were barely a referral. So it would be helpful to clarify expectations and outcomes for the LEA and IHE collaborations or partnerships from the beginning. And so one recommendation could be to include in the RFA requirements of a letter of commitment or MOU or partnership between the LEAs and IHEs, outlining their roles and responsibilities for this program so that everyone is clear of the expectations. And then this also addresses program turnover and staffing so that everyone is clear on the roles and expectations.
Oh, excuse me. Looks like I've messed up. Okay. Pardon me. It was also, so we wanted to address the pandemic COVID-19 had, the effect that may have had. And it was clear that there was an impact that the pandemic has had on both participants' apprehension of hiring in their district. That was something they particularly voiced. They were concerned that there might be less job opportunities. They voiced concerns that they were having trouble getting to testing sites and completing field work, that negatively impacts their progress. And about 2/3 of participants agreed that there was a negative impact, and even more so, managers agreed that there was some impact on the success of their program. Additionally, we asked several questions on surveys in terms of before the pandemic and since the pandemic. We intended to get some kind of baseline feeling about the challenges before, as well as identify any changes that resulted from the pandemic. The major challenges that seem to increase as a result were internet access. A lot of individuals were having trouble with that. And there seemed to be a slight increase in the housing insecurity and food insecurity areas that was more frequent, understandably so. So once the qualitative and quantitative analysis had been completed, the evaluation team spent several days just digesting all of these findings before making independent decisions on success. The leadership team utilized primarily the preponderance of evidence standard for this judgment, that standard being that a clear and convincing proof which results in a reasonable certainty of the truth. So judgments of success for each legislative goal were made independently by team members on a 1 to 5 Likert scale before team members then came together and shared their decisions. Ultimately, there was leadership team consensus that the legislative goals for this program are being fulfilled. And specifically, we felt that the LEA recruitment of classified employees and the support of their undergraduate education was very successful, and supporting their professional teacher preparation and certification was moderately successful. So we really thank you very much for this opportunity to share our findings today. It's a really valuable program, and we're excited about the success, and we look forward to continuing researching this valuable area. So I'm going to hand it back to Iore for any clarifications or questions. Thank you.
Iore, I'm just going to interrupt really quickly. I'm so sorry as the chair. I just want to make sure that participants and those who have called in can go ahead and raise your hand during the time that the presentation is happening so that we have a sense of how many questions or comments there may be. So sorry for the kind of public service announcement and interruption, but I want to make sure all those who have called in today can have a chance to know they can raise their hand virtually while folks are presenting. Thank you.
Thanks, William. As far as staff recommendations, staff recommends that the commission approve the evaluation report on the classified program for transmittal to the legislature. For next steps, staff will continue to monitor the classified program, and the commission will submit this report to the legislature by July 1st, 2021. This concludes our report. We are happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you to our researchers from Shasta, and thanks, of course, always to the CTC staff. So recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, the first is Shivae Jones. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
And while she's doing that, I'll remind everyone it's 2 minutes for the comment, and the CTC secretary will be keeping time.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners and Executive Director Sandy, for this opportunity. I would like to also thank Orange County Department of Education, Butte County Office of Education, Imperial County Office of Education for collaborating on the Classified Employee Teacher Credentialing Grant with the San Diego County Office of Education, and particularly Orange County Department of Ed for administering it. We know that in our experience here, collaboration really is the strength of our model. Currently, we have 114 participants from San Diego County in this program. 58% of these participants are from an underrepresented group. We're finding also that our classified employees often live within or nearby the communities they work, and hence they represent the underrepresented groups within our districts. This is a huge benefit as we think about what we know the research says about educators of color and their positive impact on students' academic and social emotional lives. We also have 90 graduates from the San Diego County area from this program. These are individuals who came in with 60 units and above and completed their credential programs. Of that 90%, approximately 1/3 of them attained either an ed specialist, an ed specialist or STEM credentials, and or bilingual authorization. This is over 200 people whose lives this program has impacted in some way in a relatively short amount of time. This grant, in combination with the CTC administered Local Solutions Grant, really helps San Diego County in addressing the shortage of special ed teachers, STEM teachers, and bilingual educators. Just want to thank everyone and just say that the SDCOE is grateful for this grant and the doors that it's opened across all of our school districts and for our classified employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Recording Secretary, other public comments?
Jessica Sacco, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Ms. Sacco, sorry to interrupt you, but your voice is not coming through. And so I wonder if it'd be best for you to call in or if there's something different you can do with your microphone. Jessica, you want to try one more time? Recording Secretary, I wonder if we should move to the next and see if Jessica can call in using the toll-free number.
Okay, next is Shilpa Ram. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hello, my name is Shilpa Ram, and I'm a senior staff attorney with Public Advocates. Thank you for your presentation. As many have noted in heartfelt written public comments on this item, the classified program has been transformative for teachers across California. I'd like to make 3 quick points. First, we encourage you to thoughtfully consider the recommendations featured on page 10 and 11 of the report. We were delighted by the allocation of $125 million in the governor's budget towards this program. Now is the time to continue growing and developing it. In particular, we'd like to highlight recommendations number 1, 9, 10, 11, and 13 for special attention. Second, we recommend increased collaboration and information sharing between CSAC and the Commission to make sure recommendation number 7 is achieved. It's important that all participants who receive classified program funds are aware that they may also be eligible to receive other sources of financial aid, such as the Golden State Teacher Grants. And finally, we'd like to ask the Commission if you are considering adding staff to your team to support the administration of the classified program. Please let us know if Public Advocates can be of support to you. In closing, robust investments in educator preparation programs such as the classified program are critical to expanding and diversifying the teacher pipeline. As Chair Sloan shared with us so powerfully this morning, teacher preparation matters. Thank you again for your attention to the classified program and for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you so much. I see Jessica has called back in, so let's try Jessica Swacco again. Jessica, can you unmute yourself? I think it was *9 or something like that.
Can you hear me?
Ah, there we go. Great.
Hello?
Thank you for your
Okay,
yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Hi, Jessica Sacco on behalf of Children Now. I appreciate you letting me know I was not audible before. Just backing up the comments of the previous speaker, Shilpa Ram from Public Advocates, agree with the recommendations that she has made. I would like to go on a little bit further to comment relative to the recommendations from the report. that include what I consider to be within the current authority of the CTC. And while these items are not explicitly called out within the education code, information including budget and additional information as part of the application process, as well as criteria for participation on the part of the LEA. I think that this is certainly within the authority of the CTC to consider creating a slightly more robust application and oversight and accountability process for this program. I would note that this needs to be carefully balanced so that the LEAs who did cite that they appreciated the level of flexibility and simplicity of the program in terms of making it something that they could support. So there's always a balance that needs to be held there. But we would appreciate more data, more consistency, and more accountability on behalf of the districts as well as the institutes of higher ed, as it appears that some of those relationships may have not lasted the entire length of the program based on the evaluation. Furthermore, we would just simply applaud the commission staff for their responsiveness. As we've asked questions about this program, they have been wonderful to work with. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jessica, for your perseverance.
Guillermo Castillo, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hello, good morning all. My name is Guillermo Castillo. I work for Butte County Office of Education, and I have the privilege of being part of the Classified Employee Grant as one of the directors of the program. One of the things I just wanted to mention is we have had the opportunity to implement the mini-core model, which some of you are familiar with at our county, which supports that mentoring and role modeling support. And we're just so proud to be part of this this process and have so many people that have been part of this educational journey, understanding that we have some clear gatekeepers that you guys have identified, being exams, being prerequisite courses, being flexible programs. And I know many of you have been advocates for years and years about this, but it's one of the things that I would want to reiterate is how important it is for us to continue to fund these types of programs and continue to provide flexibility and that collaboration. I do agree with what has been mentioned in the report. Many of our participants saw it as a long-term dream of potentially being a teacher, and the Classified Employee Grant had been that one igniter, that one moment in time where they said, well, potentially I can do this. And we negotiate with non-traditional students, quote unquote, which are those folks that are typically head of households, have financial commitments. And as the report mentioned, one of the biggest challenges that we're having is with student teaching. Although we have a strong partnership in our collaboration with Orange County, Imperial County, San Diego County, and have been working very closely with San Diego State and with two community colleges, Mendocino College and Feather River College specifically, in the prerequisite courses, they have really made this program very accessible to folks. We use all of those resources to leverage. And so I do agree wholeheartedly with the importance of collaborating with different agencies such as community colleges and public institutions. Thank you so much for your time.
Recording Secretary, are there other public comments?
Yes, Anna Baran, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hi, this is actually Leslie Bubb with the Orange County Department of Ed, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to address all of you and for providing this grant. We are in a consortium with Butte, Imperial, and San Diego County Offices of Education, and over these past years, we have been able to service over 700 individuals, 247 of them receiving their teaching credential. One of the things that you all were talking about in that presentation that we really agreed with was how important it was to have mentors. And this grant allowed us to establish ed advisors for all of our participants, that they would identify goals and a pathway towards getting a credential. With regular check-ins, they were able to not only encourage and empathize with them, as most of our ed advisors were and are current teachers. So they were able to understand what they were facing, especially as Guillermo was saying, that our participants are all raising families, as well as working full-time, as well as going to school. And working with all of our participants, one thing that we recognized was how difficult it is being a full-time employee and also going to school. So having an online opportunity was really important. And they knew that if they did that with a private institution, it was upwards of $30,000, which was not helpful. So we partnered with San Diego State University and created an online opportunity for them, only for people in the classified program, because the classified people come with a wealth of knowledge working in classrooms. And they were able to offer that for our people for roughly around $8,500, which was a huge savings. So I know my time is up. We're super excited about this program, and I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to facilitate this grant.
Thank you. Other public comments?
Ed Bhagwandeen, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hi, thank you for allowing me time to comment here. My name is Ed Bhagwandeen. I worked with Guillermo and his team from BCOE. I worked in Orange County as a library media specialist, uncredentialed, right, for the longest time. And I thought, you know, even after getting a minor in teaching paired with an English degree and having, you know, subject matter in the sciences, I didn't feel highly recruited about 20 years ago in terms of education. I didn't know, even back then, and much less after I left the university, Davis, what it would take. And then once I became a parent and once I was working, there's just the opportunities just seemed, the barriers I think seemed more insurmountable. I flirt with the idea of going back many times and just see a wall of requirements and no one really to help through those requirements or tell me exactly which to do in what order. I mean, teacher preparation programs did not even you know, want to talk to me unless I take all these requirements and get there. And the future educator support out of Butte County was crucial for me. I am now a teacher on special assignment. I'm designing a dual language program, and that's only because the advisor that I had called me back when I had self-doubt to say, will I be able to do this? And I did 23 units a semester working full time, and I'm here. I graduated with my master's now, and I got awarded the outstanding graduate student. And my mentor teacher in the district that I work for in Centralia, two blocks away from where I used to work, said, you teach like you've been teaching for 10 years. And it's only because we trust classified employees that their knowledge and they have a wealth of knowledge and that we have these programs that I am where I am now. So I thank you very much, and I urge you to fund this program again.
Any other public comments?
Rachel Scora, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Rachel Scora, and I am from the Imperial County by the Mexican border. I am a grant participant. I'm a grant participant from Butte County, Orange County, and Imperial County Office of Education. There is a famous proverb that says, give a man a fish, and he will eat for a day. Teach a man how to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. The Classified Employee Grant Program not only gave me the fish to eat, but taught me how to fish. It helped pay for a quality education with experienced professors, provided continuous support for exams, and provided the best investment of all, staff at Future Educator Support from Butte County, Orange County Office of Education. In 2017, 2018, we were trained to use virtual platforms such as Zoom, Google Slides, etc. The Classified Employee Grant program prepared us pre-COVID to use technology in the classroom. With the pandemic sent us into virtual classrooms, we were ready. We were equipped. We had already been prepared through this grant program because we were already using these programs at San Diego State University, DLIP program, the Dual Language and English Language Learners program, with our professors and with our grant advisors from Butte County and Orange County, Leslie Bubb, Guillermo Castillo, Ana Barron, and the future educator support staff. It is programs as these that prepare us for the future, whatever it may hold. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate everyone being so quick with their comments and calling in. Madam Secretary, the other comments.
Yes, Francisca Martinez, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Francisca Martinez Geminiano. My comment is going to be very fast. I have to say that the employee grant has been crucial for reaching my goal as an educator. Without my grant, I will never be able to pay any credential fees, tuition, books, tests. I was waiting for this opportunity like for 10 years because I work a lot. Sometimes I work 3 jobs, but I never ever have the chance to get the money for going to the university. It was a dream. I'm an immigrant. I came from Mexico 20 years ago. I believe in education. I believe in bilingual education, but I never had the chance to get the money for going to there. So I have to mention that this is only the financial support that I get for my grant program, but also the value from professionals behind the program. They guide me and encourage me anytime I feel despair about being a teacher. I love being in education, but again, I have many disadvantages, and money is my big thing. So I always have the support for them. They always plan for me. They always help me to reach the information that I need. So I believe that this grant program is the best thing that happened in my life and as an immigrant in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Secretary, Madam Secretary, any others?
We do not have any additional requests for public comment.
Okay, well, those were very rich. So commissioners, you have go ahead. Yep, we have one.
Let's see,
Can we help look at the...
I do not think it, we had a hand, but it went down, so I'm going to say no.
Oh, it
wait. Let me, I am so sorry.
No, I'm watching it too. It's not you, Madam Secretary. It went back down again. Now it's up. I wonder if this is a challenge with the system right now. Yeah, keeps going up and then goes that way. Okay, well, let's give it a few more seconds. It's back up. It's Miralu. M-I-R-U-L. I saw it up there for a second, a couple of times.
Yes, it's me. Thank you for letting me have a chance to talk.
Can you please say your full name?
Sure. I'm Mary Lu Villaseñor, and I work in Maryland Elementary at Vista Unified. And thanks to the grant that I received from Orange County Department of Education, I was able to get my teacher credential. And thanks to the help of Guillermo and Leslie and everybody in the team, I just got a brand new job for next year as a dual language teacher. Here in Vista, they are implementing a big program for dual immersion programs. And if it wasn't for this opportunity to be part of the grant, I wouldn't have that chance. I work as an instructional assistant for 3 years in this district. And I love working with children. And I was always looking for a way to further my education. when I started looking at programs, I thought it was overwhelming, the amount of work and all the tests that you have to do. But the program helped me so much in preparing for the test. We went on to like study.com and we studied for the CSET, for the CBEST. We had like live instructors, and the amount of just a lot of confidence that they gave us to continue. And all my friends, I made so many friends, we finished the program. We all finished in August 2020. And so I am so grateful and proud to finish this program, thanks to you guys and for the grant. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad we were able to include you. So Madam Secretary, not to put you on the spot, I don't see any, but are there any other public comments?
I do not see any additional public comment requests at this time.
Okay. Thank you as we adjust to this new process. I appreciate that. So commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? This is an information action item. I see that Commissioner Grenier-Shire has a question. I have a question, but I'm going to defer to others because you guys might ask it as well. So use your virtual hand or just, make sure I catch your attention. But right now in the queue will be Commissioner Grenier-Shire and Commissioner Hartwig.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. I wanted to thank Ms. Osamwanye and the research staff for this very informative agenda item. And I also want to acknowledge and thank all the speakers who provided powerful testimony regarding the impact that this grant has had on their lives and the children that they were served. I also think I want to highlight that the research report affirms the importance of grow your own programs, and we've heard it again through our speakers. The importance of leadership and building principles and retaining and supporting these teachers, and then the importance of the collaboration between IHEs and district partners. And I know this report is going to help inform our legislators as they make decisions about continued funding. So thank you again to all the staff.
Thank you. Commissioner Hartwig?
Yes, thank you. I just have a quick question and a short comment. But I also want to express my excitement about this evaluation, my thanks for the work that has gone into it. I really am thrilled to see the outcomes of this pilot program, and I'd like to echo the chair's comments this morning about how important it is that we turn successes into not piecemeal efforts, but major systemic efforts, and add my voice to support for expanding a program like this. My quick question has to do with the success of the program in terms of recruiting teachers of color, educators of color, and participants of color. It notes that 2/3 of the folks participating in the evaluation were participants of color, which is wonderful. I wanted to know if we know whether that's reflective of the participants altogether in the program. Are we tracking all of the participants in terms of their background and demographics? And so we know whether this was reflective, lower, higher than the participants altogether.
I think I can take that question. Yes, we are. That data is reflected in the annual reports that we've been provided in the past year. And a current updated data will be coming up this December.
And so is that number reflective of the overall participants from what we know?
Correct. Yes, as reported by the LEAs.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, glad to hear that. And then I just wanted to add one comment of support regarding recommendation number 5, which has to do with providing guidance and limitations on how much of the program funding can be used for administration. I saw that there was an incredibly wide range of amount of funding used for program administration, between $200 to $2,500 out of $4,000 allotted, it looks like. And so I was happy to see that this was called out in the report and evaluation as something that should be focused on to make sure there are guidelines. We, of course, want to provide LEAs enough of the funding in order for them to be able to administer it properly. But I think it's very important that there's that we make sure there's equity for this program participants across the state, and that program participants are able to secure as much of this funding individually as possible. So I just wanted to provide some support for providing more guidance about how much of the funding should be used for program administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartwig. So in order, I have Commissioner Brown first in the queue, so to speak, Commissioner Wall, and then Commissioner Simmons. Go ahead, Commissioner Brown.
Oh, no, I really need to keep it crisp. I really appreciate the thoroughness of this evaluation. This program is really exciting because what it does is it brings people with lived experience and helps them move forward. Very supportive of that. What I also notice in the 14 recommendations, so my question would be, what are our next steps? That's my question. And the specifics, I was listening, a program management guide, maybe a participant guide, definitely needing to look at continuing to support mentors and educational advisors. I was very impressed with the speaker that was talking about the wall of requirements and how you really need someone to come along with you in that forest. And I was also particularly appreciative of the speaker that talked about using the community colleges, as well as the initiative on establishing an affordable upper division online education experience at San Diego State. So my question would then be, what are our next steps in terms of addressing these really thorough recommendations that many of our speakers have supported in order to continue the program?
Karen Mendoza, are you on? I think she can answer that.
So, yep, there she is.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, indeed. So we will be reviewing all of the recommendations and determining which are the, prioritizing which are the first next steps we want to take. We certainly heard that, we could use a little more staffing to really be robust. However, we certainly can attend to the recommendations, and we're already looking forward to it. I know David and I have been having a chat about next steps and what we can do, and certainly as we can address the recommendations, we certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. I'm sure we'll have this conversation more since this topic is more about approving this for the legislature, but certainly something to go deeper into our responses on the recommendations. So thank you for that. Commissioner Wall and then Commissioner Simmons.
So first I see the evaluation report as really providing strong process-based information, and that's incredibly valuable for thinking about implementation. And obviously the recommendations are toward that. I wonder if if we can discern some best practices from the process information, given that the structure of the program is created through legislation. I also want everyone to think about, as they're thinking about the next steps in implementation, what it means if we scale this up. So this is a certain size now, but I wonder about discussion of scale up and what that means. Because sometimes when you do it in one size, it's one way, and then if it becomes larger, it actually has some different implications. And I do think that the question about our own internal staffing is a really important question of allocation of resources here, because if there's such variation in the program and we know that it's doing good things, how do we decrease some of that variation through the structure we can provide? And that may mean that we have to provide some centralized staff support to think through those things. So those are my quick comments.
Does anyone from CTC staff want to address any of them? I mean, they were comments, but
I'm happy to address. I appreciate Commissioner Wool's comments, and we have been in conversation with the administration and the legislature as the budget is moving through, and there's still a fair amount of work to do before all of the budget dust settles. So we have advocated for staffing to support the growth in the grants programs, and we'll see what happens with the rest of the budget process. So thank you. We are working on it and would like to make sure we are adequately staffed to support this work.
Great. Good news and great questions and comments. Commissioner Simmons.
Okay, the first time I met Sandy was at a bidders conference for the para program, which was sort of the predecessor of this. And I believe that was in 1992. Okay, I think it was Mary's third day on the job. And she and Rod Santiago were the two people at the commission that were actually running the para program. And I will tell you that the program does not work without support, dedicated support of commission staff. And it also requires that and then I went on to become the director of the paraeducator program for Ventura County and worked with it for the duration of the grant. The only way these things work is if you have consistent management. So when I look at recommendation 5, I think about my own career and how that I basically became an HR assistant superintendent because of the experience that I got working with the para program. And what it comes down to me is that you have to have, these programs will not be successful unless you can build relationships between IHEs and LEAs. And the only way you can build those relationships is with consistency and with time. Now, you can't have consistent management unless you have an ongoing funding source. And I mean both at the LEA level and at the IHE level and at the commission level. So that's 3 different levels. You have to have consistent people. And the only way that we could justify that, at least in Ventura County at the time, was by having an economy of scale. Because you have to have a large enough program to be able to shave off just a little bit of money off of each grant to be able to support someone. Because the LEA managers, that was my role. So I'll tell you what you had to do. You had to have a Rolodex so that you knew contacts at every one of the universities that you were dealing with. You had to understand the credential analysts at every one of those universities. And often it was multiple departments that you would have to work with if you were doing single subject credentials or if you were doing multiple subject credentials. So all of that requires that you have that you have consistency so that they know who to call when they have a situation and you know who to call when you have a situation. And I have used those relationships even to today. When we got word from our school board that we needed to increase the number of teachers by 20% after the pandemic, who did I call? All of the people that are still at universities that I've been working with for the last, some of them 30 years. That's how that this program can expand. So with 5, I am almost wondering if there should be some consideration to both the maximum and the minimum. And how is it that you're going to, if you have only 10 candidates, how is it that you're going to ensure that you have sufficient management to be able to run the program? So I love this program. This is the one that okay, when I die, I want this one on my tombstone, because it is the one that I know so many principals now that went through the para program. So many superintendents that went through the para program. This is the most exciting thing and this is a new iteration of what is the most exciting thing really in my whole career.
Thank you. Thanks for your passion, but thanks for your experience with this to really help guide the work. I see one more question. I have a quick question, but Chair Sloan, you go first.
I'm going to make it really quick, but I wanted to emphasize the best practices and the value of the evaluation and for Commissioner Simmons' comments as well for helping us shape our other work that we are doing here with all of these grant programs. And one thing I noticed with all of the speakers who were supported by this program, all of them talked about not just the financial supports, but the supports for navigating the system to becoming a teacher. And that seems incredibly important. And our money that we have been granted for these regional recruitment and support centers, that's a key word here, I think. It's not just a rah-rah, come and become a teacher. This is hopefully going to be a place where anybody who is interested is going to be supported in navigating the system too. So just to thank the evaluators for your recommendations and your work that's going to help inform a lot of our work.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think mine's a question and or comment, however we want to go with this, but I, very similar to Chair Sloan, is I saw a couple times the challenges around recruiting for this program, more as a management administrative role. And in the recommendations, I didn't see anything specific about recruiting, and perhaps, it could just be more broad, in terms of, prioritizing best practices, bringing the forum for managers. But also Chair Sloan just gave me an idea of maybe leveraging the recruitment and support center, however we can, because recruitment came up a couple of times as a challenge. And so I just wanted to call that out, and the report's fine, because we have to vote on it, but I would love to see staff or others pay attention to this consistent challenge that was raised, and it's because it's not specifically in the recommendations. All right, well, that was my slot as my question. I don't see any other questions right now in terms of virtual, and I don't see anybody waving me down. And so this is an action item. So do I have a motion to approve the evaluation report of the California Classified School Employee Teacher Credentialing Program for transmittal to the legislature? Okay, I see that Commissioner Hartwig has a motion to approve the evaluation report of the California Classified School Employee Credentialing Program for transmittal to the legislature. Do I have a second? Okay. Well, yes, Commissioner Simmons, I believe so. With all the passion and experience you have around here, we want to get you officially seconding this action item. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I don't see any. All right. Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney.
Aye.
Michael De La Torre.
Aye.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo.
Aye.
Megan Gross.
Aye.
Johanna Hartwig.
Aye.
Susan Enridia.
Aye.
Terry Jackson.
Aye.
Bonnie Clark.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Again, I want to thank the evaluators, thank the CTC staff, and the folks who called in to share their experiences with this. And I know this program is really is really kind of taking up in other states as well. So it is a very exciting program. If we're going to go ahead and move to item 4B, which is an information only item. And then maybe we'll check in around how far we want to go before we do a lunch break. So we have item 4B, the report on the integrated undergraduate teacher preparation program grants. This item is being presented by Christina Najarro. Like I said, it's an information item only. Ms. Najarro, will you begin?
Thank you so much, and good morning, Commission members.
It's my pleasure to be here today to present the third update on the implementation and outcomes of the Integrated Undergraduate Teacher Preparation Program grants. Funding for the integrated grant programs was included in the 2016-17 state budget to address teacher shortages in special education, STEM, bilingual education, as well as other shortage areas, and to provide expanded and streamlined options for earning a preliminary teaching credential. Authorizing legislation provided $10 million to be awarded to baccalaureate granting institutions with commission-approved educator preparation programs for the purpose of developing a new 4-year integrated program whereby participants would earn both a bachelor's degree and a multiple or single subject teaching credential in 4 years. It's important to note that the integrated grant was a planning grant. Funds provided up to $250,000 to 41 grant recipients and to their community college partners to develop new programs. As I mentioned earlier, this is the third report to the Commission on these grants. Because this was a planning grant, the first report focused on program development, design features, and implementation. The second report, and the data in the report that I'll be sharing today, focuses on the types of programs that have been developed using this funding and the demographic data of the candidates enrolled in those pathways. I'll now review the data from the 2019-2020 school year. Because this was a planning grant, the first two tables in the agenda item include information on both the pathways that have been established and those that are still being developed. Table 1 on page 3 shows the types of integrated programs created and offered to candidates during the 1920 academic year. Of the 57 total pathways, the most frequently developed are multiple subject with a total of 12, mild to moderate special education with 10, and single subject math with 8. Table 2, also on page 3, introduces the 6 new pathways planned by grant recipients that were open for enrollment starting in the 2020-2021 academic year. You'll notice that there's a nice range of programs types here with multiple subjects, single subject STEM, bilingual authorizations, and education specialist pathways all being represented. Table 3 on page 4 details the candidate enrollment by program type and academic standing. In the 1920 school year, 701 candidates were reported as having completed programs. 344 of those, just under half, worked towards earning their multiple subject credential. The next highest enrollments were the 150 candidates who worked towards their multiple subject credential with bilingual authorization, and the 60 candidates that worked towards a mild to moderate education specialist credential. If you're paying close attention, you may have noticed that some of the numbers on the chart do not match those in the narrative underneath. Please refer to the sums in the chart as they are the correct figures. Staff is very pleased to report that there has been an increase in both the number of programs offered and the number of candidates enrolled in integrated pathways using these grant funds. In 2018-19, grantees reported operating 41 programs with 392 candidates enrolled. Those numbers jumped to 57 operational programs with 701 candidates in 1920. So far, that equals 1,072 future teachers who have been able to earn their bachelor's degree alongside their preliminary teaching credential in 4 years, rather than the 5 years traditionally associated with earning one's bachelor's degree and a credential. Moving along in the agenda item, tables 4 through 6, beginning on page 5, provide the numbers of integrated program candidates by self-identified ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Just under half of the candidates, 45.5%, self-identified as Hispanic or Latinx, a quarter as heterosexual or straight, and approximately 80% as female. Now that we have seen how successful our grant recipients have been at developing programs and supporting candidates, let's take a quick look at some of the challenges they faced with implementation. In the samples shared in this item, you will see that the most frequently reported obstacles included internal curriculum review and approval processes, recruitment, and, as expected, pandemic-related enrollment issues. Staff will continue to support programs through these implementation challenges. In closing, the next report to the Commission on Integrated Undergraduate Teacher Preparation Program grants will include the 2020-2021 program and candidate data, and it will be the final report to the Commission on these grants. And now I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about this item.
Great. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments on this item?
We are checking, and I do not see any public comments for this item.
Okay, give it a few seconds. Okay, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? This is information item. And virtual hand or flag me down. Okay, I see we have 3 questions or comments. I'm going to start with Commissioner Gross, Commissioner Brown, and then Commissioner Hartwig.
I just wanted to celebrate this. Like, this is really phenomenal. This was a planning grant that some IHEs were able to implement already, with 1,000 teachers being prepared. And I think, like, addressing one of the barriers we see, which is post-baccalaureate credential programs are cost prohibitive. As someone who took out student loans for that post-baccalaureate program and paid them off for a long time, I'm really excited for these candidates to get to enter the field, hopefully with a little less debt. And I'm really excited to see kind of the next step and phases for these programs. I wonder how we increase the diversity of who's represented in these programs, and how we do that recruitment, right? It kind of all comes back to that recruitment piece again. So that's just something that I'm starting to think about in my head. So thank you for the item.
Great, thank you so much, Commissioner Gross. Commissioner Brown, and then we're going to go Commissioner Hartwig, and then I think I saw one other hand up from one other commissioner. I'll call on that person when I find it again. Okay, Commissioner Brown.
Oh, thank you. I noticed that in the challenges of implementation, which I really appreciate the report, and I'm very, very supportive of this integrated piece, because I think that it has huge implications for us being able to address not only the teacher shortage, but the ways in which underserved people can become teachers. Talking about one of the, so my 2 questions, one is a comment and one is a question. The comment is really excited to see that the articulation agreements and course pathways are including reaching out to the community college contacts, because again, that makes it an affordable and also co-labor or collaborative process. And then my question is, I see the last challenge was that it is being approved by the curriculum committee it was approved by a curriculum committee in December of 20 and sent to the chancellor's office. Could you talk about that for a minute? Because I don't quite understand that. Either the process or where it went or what that means.
I will go ahead and take my best stab at answering this one, and I'll lean on Kara for support here if she would like to correct anything that I say. But I understand that to create a new coursework or pathways within the structure of an IHE, that needs to go through both an internal review process and then get approved at whatever agency is above that. I assume that is what is the chancellor's office role, so that those new pathways are approved and can be offered to candidates. So because this was a 1920 report, we gathered this information from grantees in December of 2020. So that process was just happening for them as they were reporting, and we will not see the fruits of that approval process until we gather next year's data. Kara, did I skip anything there?
No, I think you did very well. It's a matter of internal processes at the IHEs, and
so when you talk about approved by a curriculum committee, what curriculum committee are you talking about?
The one at
which chancellor's office was it?
I don't know. Do you know which chancellor's office it was, Christina? We would have to look that up and get back to you, Commissioner Brown.
Okay, so it was just some curriculum committee at one of the California State Universities, or a UC, or a private, or what? You don't,
Indeed.
It doesn't say.
Indeed, it doesn't say, because Christine was providing samples of types of the challenges. And on occasion, some of our IHEs have challenges putting things through the system. So.
Oh, believe me, I know about that. But it didn't name a particular university or college. I didn't know if it was referring to something like the entire CSU system, or if it was UC or what. So I can see Marquita. Thank you. You helped answer that question.
Just a sample.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next we have Commissioner Hartwig, and then followed by her will be Commissioner Heredia.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Thanks for the work on this great report. It's exciting to have a second report that's talking about how we're trying to help tackle our teacher shortage. I had a question about the demographic breakdown. I was pleased to see that there seems to be a very high participation by Latinx candidates at almost 46%, but I was disappointed and a little alarmed to see that the Black or African American participant count is at only 1%. And this is, of course, one of the tools that we're hoping to use to help diversify our teaching corps. So I wondered if staff or if any of my fellow commissioners can help me understand why that's such a very low percentage for Black or African American participation, and whether there are any tools that we have within this program to try to increase diversity along those lines. I know Commissioner Gross mentioned this as well in her comments, that would be one of the goals for this program. So I don't know if anybody can shed any light for me on why that particular number is so low.
I don't have any information on why that particular number was so low. I would be curious. I just joined the commission in September of 2020, so I'm going to ask Kara and potentially Phyllis. Was at the time in 2016-17 when this grant was rolled out, was there? I'm not sure if there was a focus directly related to this grant on diversifying the educator pool.
There wasn't in the RFP. However, certainly increasing teacher diversity here in California has been at the forefront of all of our minds. I can't, Commissioner Hartwig, we're always struggling with getting the diversity data. I know you and I have had conversations about why are they declining to state? I don't know. But with this said, we are starting to wrap up the integrated and the reporting for the integrated. And I'm thinking out loud that maybe this is a question we need to ask for the last reporting. Talk to us about your recruitment. What were the barriers to getting recruiting teachers of color into your programs? I think it would be really good to hear from the actual programs who are doing the work. So I appreciate your comment, and certainly we'll be considering it for the next round of reporting for sure.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Really quickly, before I go to Commissioner Heredia, Commissioner Grenner-Shire, did you want to answer a question previously that I think Commissioner Brown had asked? I saw you raise your hand around the Chancellor's question.
I would be happy to, if I could just jump in front of the line. I appreciate that. A couple of things. Commissioner Brown, as you know, being at community college, there's internal curriculum processes, and because these were new programs, they also had to go up to the Chancellor's office, at least for the CSUs. And so because this was a high priority for the Chancellor's Office, because so many of our campuses received these grants, we reviewed, not I, but a colleague and her team reviewed them and got them back to the campuses just as soon as possible. So I just want to make sure that you understand that was the process. May I address the recruitment issue and enrollment, or can I go back in line to do that?
I will ask Commissioner Heredia since she was next.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to hear.
I also want to support asking staff to include questions regarding recruitment of candidates and what they're learning about different subgroups of students who are persisting and those who are dropping off. As you've heard me mention a couple times, the CSU has taken a very deep dive into understanding where those leaks in the pipeline are, and so it would be really helpful to understand that for our ITEP programs. And then finally, I too was concerned about the enrollment, the 1% of African American candidates in our program. Across the CSU, our enrollment in teacher education is anywhere from 2 to 3%. So again, we have concerted efforts to recruit Black candidates into our program. And so I, again, would be really interested to see what we can do as a commission to encourage our higher ed partners to be really explicit and descriptive in terms of what their efforts are. Thank you, Commissioner Heredia, for letting me jump in the front.
No problem. Thank you. So I just want to echo, the comments and the sentiments about recruitment from the last, the previous commissioner's comments. I remember my time at Sac State, and just when I chaired the bilingual multicultural teacher ed department, and the recruitment efforts required that we had a liaison, and that was a paid position in the College of Education. A liaison that then worked with the community college and went to all the education courses or related courses to do that. So I wasn't sure, if that's a very costly, endeavor for universities. But I will tell you, it paid dividends having that person as a full-time, almost as a full-time recruiter. And not only did that person was a full-time recruiter, but they also were the one that was responsible for helping students, they helped, demystify, the requirements for CVES and CSET. And they were the ones who set up the workshops for students in the College of Education and tutored them to pass those tests along with some other support staff. So, if we are truly committed to this, to increasing the numbers of unrepresented students, we are going to have to really commit that, dollars to do this. I mean, there's just no way, we're going to be able to rely on just kind of, word of mouth or whatever endeavors we take. And I know people work really hard, and I believe me, I know the challenges and very, very familiar with it. So, it's sort of like with the comments this morning about one-time monies funding programs. It's like, how do we convince the legislature that your one-time money is not going to sustain us, is not going to really bring about change for us. So again, and here's another thing that we need to think about. But my question, I did have a question about, and I'm alarmed. I'm alarmed by the numbers of the unrepresented groups. Not surprised, but still alarmed at even today. But my question is on here: if there was any attempt to just aggregate the data, for example, on the Latinx, the 355 that identified as Latinx. Do we have that? Do we have any more information about that? In terms of gender on that 355. Any kind of information that would give us some idea about who are these people exactly? Where are they, you know, what some more context about these people, so that we understand, like, oh, if we've got so many female here and so many males there, you know, how does that then help our recruiting efforts? You know, or what does, you know, that, let's say, also on Asian, I would be very appreciative at some point understanding more about the Asian 45 individuals. I was just on a Zoom call with the, you know, the Asian school board members in California, speaking to them just last week. And one of the things that, you know, they were asking for was, you know, the demographics of breaking it down, because in some districts they're looking specifically for Southeast Asian students, and other districts they're looking for, you know, Vietnamese, and they're wondering, like, where are those populations of students, you know, of credential candidates? How can they get that information? And again, I also think that understanding that information, again, informs our thinking about recruiting. I just remember from my experience, you know, Southeast Asian students at my college, they were, you know, in abundance, it seemed like, for a couple of years. And then once more of them got confident about attending college and saw themselves as college students, they were then shifting into other majors, and business was one of the majors they were now shifting into because of the responsibility of taking care of their families, not only their parents, but, you know, their own families. So that information would be helpful if we have that in the future. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your feedback. Yeah, we did not gather the data in that way this time around, but we can certainly look at changing our reporting questions to change how we gather it in the final reporting for next year.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. We're gonna go to Commissioner Wall and then Commissioner Brown.
So I'm picking up on this trend about if you collect information on participants' backgrounds, I think two things. One, I think it might be interesting to ask institutions about their overall population of undergraduates relative to who's going into this program. Because it sounds to me as you did not ask as a dimension of the design of the program for that to be structural change that might attract students of different backgrounds than are already at the university, right? And so that raises a second thing. You know, if we think about this program in the future, perhaps we want to think about structural changes as they develop programs that might make it more attractive to people of different backgrounds. And maybe we believe that about simply design of an undergraduate program, but I don't necessarily think that's how universities immediately construct programs. They may, but I mean, unless we're real explicit about that. So I think it'd be really interesting to see how the population of who's participating reflects who's already there, and are we drawing a similar or different group of students? And then I think it leads to the question about, okay, well then what kind of structural design changes might programs need to think about to attract a different group of students? So those are kind of, as I think this through.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that comment, and I agree with you. I had similar thoughts when comparing the RFPs, you know, of this grant to the more recent grants that we have, the classified teacher residency, local solutions. We are seeing, you know, more of a focus on gathering that type of data. So I agree. If we had another round of integrated funding, I think that there could be some really interesting changes. And now that we have these programs that are clearly up and running and robust and can share best practices with folks who are interested in creating, you know, even more new programs.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Brown, and then we're going to go to Commissioner Grinnershire.
So that brought me, thank you, Commissioner Wall. I must have been channeling you, because I was wondering who was at the institutions already, and then from those people, who was going into these integrated programs. my ancillary question on it was, what collaboration is there between the bachelor's program or the undergraduate part of the institution of higher education and its graduate school of education? And was there any look at how those groups operated, and did that have an effect on who we're seeing or who we're not seeing?
Yeah, we did not ask that question either, but I will definitely make a note of that as well.
And I believe we asked some similar questions in the first round of reporting, and certainly, as Christina just said, for the next round, it's something we can definitely ask.
Great. Appreciate the recommendations by the commissioners. Commissioner Grano-Shire.
Thank you for letting me jump back in. I think we need to be mindful that these integrated teacher education programs are four-year programs, and so many of our students of color cannot afford to be in these programs for 4 years, and so the importance of financial aid and scholarships is just heightened once again. And so in some ways, while it is discouraging to see the low percentages, it's not surprising when you look at national data regarding length of programs. So the fact that we have the Golden State Teacher grants is just absolutely critical to providing support to our candidates. But that wasn't a surprising piece to me, and I just wanted to raise that again. Thanks.
Okay, let's see. Okay, Commissioner Cardenas.
I just wanted to make a comment in regards to, just want to say thank you for this report. And I agree with Commissioner Gross that this is promising as far as the number of participants who are able to get the credentials. The one thing that I do want to make a comment about is really what we're all discussing is, you know, where are our students? Where are our students of color? And when we talked about what Commissioner Grano-Shire just referred to, these are four-year programs. Majority of our students start at two-year institutions. And because they start at two-year institutions, you know, do we have the opportunity to recruit our students of color that are at two-year institutions to bring them over to this type of program? And also, we talked about it earlier as far as even recruiting within our own, right? We have our own students in our last session, but we have our students. It's just a matter of what are we going to do to recruit them, and also what are we going to do to retain them? Because once we have them, we have to continue to support. Without that support, and it's not just the financial piece, as it was stated even earlier, it's also the other support of how to navigate the higher education, because that in itself is overwhelming. So those are just, we have opportunities. Again, I thank you for this report, and it seems very promising, but we definitely can see that there's work to be done. And how can we really capture our students who are already there, already available, and, you know, and probably more than willing, but we need to be able to reach out to them and then to further support them along the way.
Great. Thank you, commissioners and CTC staff, for this great conversation, for the report. And we're very fortunate that California has various pathways to becoming a teacher, and appreciate these reports and the evaluation of some of the pathways that we have. So thank you so much, Ms. Mendoza. And it is 12:18, so it is the lunching hour. And I'm going to go ahead and recess the Educator Preparation Committee until tomorrow. Commissioner Sloan, or Chair Sloan?
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Yes, we are going to move items 4C, 4D, and 4E to tomorrow. I will now recess the general session. Members of the commission will go into closed session. The general session will reconvene at 8:30 tomorrow morning, and commissioners, we will start closed session in 45 minutes. So let's start closed session at 1 o'clock. That would be easy, correct? Is that okay? Maybe that's 42 minutes. All right. All right, have a nice break and a nice lunch, and commissioners, will see you in closed session. Staff and stakeholders, we will see you tomorrow at 8:30. Thank you.